This video is the second of three parts on better education. In this video, let's talk about pedagogy. In the first video, we discussed how curriculum designers prescribe a set of topics that students have to learn at every age. Because a school year covered a lot of topics, it required an efficient information delivery system to large groups of children. And this is why, for the longest time, the pedagogy of choice has been broadcast teaching. Broadcast teaching involves the teacher having complete control over the activities of the classroom and full command of the attention of the students. It is characterized by the primarily one-way flow of information from the teacher as transmitter of information to the student as receiver. It works under the assumption that teachers have to teach, or else children won't learn or want to learn. The problem is the dominance of the teacher has a negative effect on the attitudes of students towards learning. Students inevitably become completely dependent on the teacher as the singular authority on the information they need to learn. They come to believe that they need a teacher to know what they need to know and are incapable of learning on their own. That is, students will stop thinking for themselves, or at least will only think up to a certain point before asking for help from the teacher. Every teacher is familiar with these effects, but they may rarely consider it as a result of the way they teach. As John Holt wrote, too often, it is school and non-stop talking teachers that turn students into inert and passive learners. Still, broadcast teaching is necessary in prescribed curricula because teachers need to control the use of time in the classroom. There are so many topics and only so much time spent on each of them. This, of course, leads to an obvious problem. If you go quickly through each lesson, you can never really go deep into any topic. So, this leads to two things for the students. It's rote memorization and a general culture of disinterest. Rote memorization is the only way to cope with the speed of information that is being thrown at you daily. Broadcast teaching inevitably gives information in chunks of trivia that students then consume with very little question. Students memorize this information because they have probably learned that memorizing facts and procedures leads to success in tests, which is all that matters. There is no time for making connections between ideas and critiquing the information. And because there's no time to make the information personal, one can never develop any real interest in any topic. No sooner do you begin to understand one topic than you have to move on to another one. All children are naturally curious and capable of much learning, but what school does is it trains the curiosity out of them by teaching them not to get too attached to any one topic. It is precisely this kind of teaching that anesthetizes joy and excitement and passion from learning. But if we liberate the curriculum from prescriptions and let the students decide what to learn, as we suggested in our previous video, what role do teachers play in that environment? Education, especially in the context of the 21st century, should be less about receiving information, but creating knowledge for oneself. Students must transform from passive recipients of information to active producers of information. In order to do this, we have to flip the old broadcast teaching paradigm to give over control of learning in the classroom to the students. And by flipping broadcast teaching, I do not simply mean allowing students to join in the conversation and contribute by asking them certain questions meant to elicit specific responses while we guide them in the direction we want to go. No, I mean allowing the students to dominate the conversation by letting them ask the questions and giving them freedom to decide wherever to take the conversation. So, how do we get our students who have been rendered silent by years of coerced schooling to take charge of their own education? Well, by giving them something worthwhile to talk about and do. Teachers need to engage their students by giving learning a more meaningful purpose than studying for a test. It falls on teachers to prove that what they want to teach is relevant and interesting, and if they cannot, then perhaps they deserve to be ignored. Now, one particular way of engaging students in relevant tasks is already being practiced in schools across the world, like High Tech High in San Diego, California. It's called project-based learning. Watch.
It's not a question of just piling on more and additional work. It's, are you going to try to shove a bunch of content in kids and hope that you have enough relational connection that they'll plod through it? Or are you going to develop a strong relationship, get to know the kid, try to help inspire, ignite, unleash them onto some things that they're interested in pursuing, and through that, get to some really deep, rigorous, and vigorous learning opportunities?
We have to deprogram students on school. We have to deprogram students and teachers on school and reimagine the way that it looks. It cannot be the same. If you really want to see kids thrive, you have to give them the steering wheel. It's a little scary. They kind of go like this, but they do learn to correct, and they are capable of such amazing things.
Our goal as teachers isn't just to teach students what to learn, it's to teach them how to learn. Their job is to think about, okay, what do I know about myself as a learner, and how do I figure out what's best for me so that way they can actually be at their fullest potential.
What is the purpose of exhibition? Like, why do we do exhibitions?
To present our work to like parents and other visitors.
To show the significance or the reason we did a project and like the impact it had on either us or other people after the project.
Something that we learned that was important around the world, and then we wanted to share it to other people as well.
Or raising awareness, maybe, should we say?
Students learn by questioning, grappling, failing, beginning again, and they learn through critique and revision. So educators can shape this path for self-management, self-paced checklists, routine check-ins with peers or the teacher to assess students' progress and process. And we know when it comes to learning, it's competence that builds confidence. So each iteration of success after struggle helps build students' capacity to navigate productive struggle and cognitive conflict. And why does this matter? If you think about everything that's going on in the world today, we want students who are able to problem solve, who are able to exercise their agency for the benefit of society.
At the most, in terms of preparation, you're helping students find good resources and helping them come up with different templates or find good sources for something they're researching. But ultimately, most learners can do that for themselves, even at a very young age, right? We know now that, and all the research is showing us, that pretty young students can tap into what's available online, and they can find good resources, and with a little more purpose and a little more heft to what was behind it. Like a 5-year-old can design a study if you let them. You just have to kind of give them some of the basics and help them figure out how to do it and some of those processes.
I feel like a lot less kids would drop out. But I think if you were able to learn whatever you wanted to learn, that kids would show up to school more often and hate it less and behave better.
Like having school personalized to what you want to do, that's passion right there. And passion makes people want to focus, makes people want to do what they feel like their purpose is to do.
A project that engages students in inquiry, observation, reflection, multiple drafting of findings, peer review, and public sharing of work when the work is authentic.
Because when you're doing something that you care about or something that matters, you push yourself more to grow in all of your skills. And I think adolescents are pretty unique and amazing in their drive to make the world a better place, a more just, equitable, free world for all of us. And so I think when you tap into that passion and that drive, it really motivates students to do work that matters, that has an impact, and to do work that is at a professional level.
Not only are you learning all the concepts, you're applying it to you're applying it to real life. So not instead of like sitting in like a chemistry room and just like listening to the teacher talk about all these formulas and stuff and like and doing experiments and stuff, we're actually applying it to real life concepts like rockets, where we're designing their fuel source, figuring out why it works based on what we see, essentially.
In projects, we're trying to ask the right questions. And we don't necessarily know the answer, and we don't always know how to get there. We have to figure that out.
So this mode of teaching is characterized by a holistic approach to broad disciplines of knowledge rather than separate subject matters. It makes learning more meaningful by giving students tasks and problems to engage with that require them to draw on knowledge from different fields and call on interdisciplinary skills and require the perspectives and contributions of different people, expert or otherwise. Teaching like this is less about information and more about developing general transferable skills, the so-called soft skills required for continuous learning. Students learn only what is interesting and relevant to them, and students learn best what they do, not what they are merely told. So rather than merely telling them what they need to learn, it is better to give them authentic opportunities to practice the skills of creating knowledge on their own. This isn't just about learning to be scientists, researchers, journalists, artists through the instruction of a teacher. It's about providing the space to authentically act and behave like scientists, researchers, journalists, and artists. This conforms with that old adage posted in many classrooms. We say, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. If students personally experience the thing they need to learn, there's a greater chance for that learning to become permanent. The process of creating knowledge involves observation, reflection, documentation, and exhibition. It starts with a big question, a meaningful real-world problem. Is democracy still relevant? Can we do anything about climate change? Can we solve the traffic problem? What if we design our own school? Can we stop the spread of disinformation? What can we do about brain drain? And then we let the students talk amongst themselves. The teacher barely intervenes. In this model, the teacher is less sage on the stage and more guide on the side. They only give input when they really have to. The students are in total control, and the teachers can be learning alongside them because when learning is authentic, no one knows the answers to the questions. In the process of creating knowledge, the students learn to look for the information they need. They learn to critique sources of information. They learn to analyze information. They learn to make connections. They draw on different bodies of knowledge. They can consult several experts. And then they consolidate the knowledge. And then the last step in the creation of knowledge is exhibition. Give our students an avenue to present their work to the world. And I don't just mean reporting in class. I mean publishing student work, creating public school fairs where student work is displayed, arranging student-led talks, inviting experts to look at student output. Such activities further gives them something more to look forward to and gives their learning more legitimacy than a boring test. Students need opportunities to use their knowledge and skills in legitimate ways. They should have opportunities to build their own knowledge, set the rules, plan events and activities, design experiments and experiences, build inventions. They should have opportunities to create and innovate. This is more than just telling students what to know, it's developing the ability how to know. Teaching like this is far more engaging than the robotic lessons and tests we give that serve to anesthetize student curiosity and creativity. So let us allow our students to surprise us, because when we give them the opportunity, children are capable of greater insight than we think.